You sit in a restaurant, the food arrives, you take one bite, and suddenly you stop. You look at the plate again. Wait, why is this so good? You've cooked the same dish at home. Same ingredients, same recipe, same YouTube tutorial, but somehow this tastes completely different. Richer, deeper, more addictive. And then the question hits you, why does restaurant food always taste better? Is it the chef? The ingredients? Or is there something else going on, something you don't see? Because here's the truth most people don't realize. Restaurant food is not just cooking, it's engineered, designed, optimized to hit your brain in a very specific way. And once you understand this, you'll never look at your plate the same way again. Let's start with the most uncomfortable truth. Restaurants use way more butter than you think. No, seriously, way more. That creamy pasta you love, that silky sauce, that perfect shine on your steak, that's not just skill, that's butter doing its job. Chefs don't add butter carefully like we do at home. They don't measure teaspoons, they drop in chunks. Big ones. Because butter doesn't just add flavor, it carries flavor. It spreads taste across your tongue. It makes everything feel richer, smoother, more complete. Now think about your own cooking. Be honest. How often do you hold back? This is too much butter. Let me keep it healthy. And right there, you've already changed the result. And it's not just butter, it's salt. Restaurants are not afraid of salt. In fact, they depend on it. Salt doesn't just make food salty, it enhances everything. It brings out hidden flavors, balances sweetness, and reduces bitterness. Without enough salt, food tastes flat. Dead. And most home cooks, they undersalt every single time because we're scared. But chefs, they know exactly how far they can push it without ruining the dish. That's experience. That's control. But here's something even more interesting. It's not just what they add, it's how they cook. Have you ever noticed how food at restaurants has this deep, almost smoky flavor, like it's been cooked differently? That's because it has. Restaurants cook at temperatures most home kitchens simply can't reach. High heat changes everything. It creates something called the Maillard reaction, the process where food browns and develops complex flavors. That crispy edge on a steak, that golden crust on a burger, that slight char on vegetables, that's not just cooking, that's chemistry. And most home stoves, they don't get hot enough. So your food cooks, but it doesn't transform. Now let me ask you something. When you cook at home, what's your biggest fear? Burning the food, right? You lower the heat, you play it safe. But chefs do the opposite. In restaurants, everything is served at the perfect moment. Not before, not after. The steak rests just enough to keep juices inside. The pasta hits your plate seconds after being tossed in sauce. Nothing sits around getting cold or soggy. But at home, you cook multiple things at once. One gets cold while you finish another. Something overcooks. Something dries out. And just like that, you lose quality without even realizing it. But here's where things get even deeper. Restaurants don't just cook food. They design experience. Think about it. The lighting is warm. The music is controlled. The plating looks beautiful. Even the smell in the air is intentional. All of this affects how you taste food. Yes, taste is not just in your mouth. It's in your brain. When your brain expects something to taste good, it actually tastes better. That's psychology. Have you ever ordered something expensive and thought, this has to be good? And then it is? That's not a coincidence. That's your brain working with your expectations. Now compare that to home. You're distracted, maybe you're on your phone, maybe the TV is on, maybe you're stressed. Same food, different experience. And then there's one more thing most people ignore. Repetition. Chefs cook the same dish again and again and again. Hundreds of times. They know exactly how it should look, smell, feel. Every mistake has already been made and corrected. Every detail refined. But at home, you try a recipe once, maybe twice. You're still figuring it out. You're guessing, and that difference shows up on your plate. So now the question becomes, is restaurant food actually better? Or is it just optimized better? Now let's go even deeper, because what we've talked about so far, that's just the surface. There's something restaurants understand that most people completely ignore. Layering. Flavor layering is the difference between this is okay and this is insane. At home, we usually add everything at once. Oil, spices, ingredients, done. But chefs build flavors step by step. They start with a base, maybe garlic and oil, then onions, then spices, then deglaze the pan to capture all those brown bits stuck at the bottom. That's pure flavor right there, and most people wash it away without even thinking. Every step adds another layer, another dimension. So when you take a bite, it doesn't taste flat, it tastes deep. Complex, like something is happening in your mouth. And let me ask you something. Have you ever tried to recreate a restaurant dish exactly and it still felt like something was missing? That something is usually not an ingredient. It's a step, a small technique, a detail you didn't even notice. Now here's another truth restaurants won't tell you. They don't cook for health. They cook for impact. More oil, more butter, more sugar, more salt. Everything is pushed slightly beyond what you would normally use at home because their goal is not to feed you, it's to impress you. To make sure that first bite hits hard, that you remember it, that you come back. And it works because your brain is wired to love extremes. High fat, high salt, high sugar. That combination triggers pleasure. It makes food feel addictive. So when you say restaurant food tastes better, what you really mean is it hits harder, but wait, there's more. Let's talk about ingredients. Yes, ingredients matter, but not in the way you think. It's not always about expensive ingredients, it's about the right ingredients. Fresh herbs instead of dried. Properly aged meat. High quality oils. Even something as simple as using fresh lemon juice instead of bottled can completely change a dish. Now think about your kitchen. How often do you substitute? Skip an ingredient? Use something close enough? It seems small, but those small changes add up. And then there's equipment. Restaurants have tools that give them an advantage. Heavy pans that hold heat better. Powerful burners. Ovens that cook evenly. Grills that create real flame contact. These tools allow chefs to control cooking in ways that are hard to replicate at home. But here's the twist. Even if you had all the same tools, would your food taste the same? Probably not. Because the biggest difference isn't equipment, it's mindset. When chefs cook, they're focused. Every movement has intention, every decision is deliberate. They taste constantly, adjust constantly. They're not guessing, they're responding. But at home, we rush, we multitask, we follow steps without understanding why they matter. And that's the real gap, not skill, awareness. Now let me flip the question. What if restaurant food isn't better? What if it's just more intentional, more controlled, more refined, more thought through? Because once you understand all of this, something interesting happens. You stop seeing restaurant food as magic, and you start seeing it as a system built on heat, fat, salt, timing, layering, and psychology. And once you see the system, you can start using it. Add a little more salt, but taste as you go. Don't be afraid of heat, use it. Layer your flavors instead of dumping everything in. Pay attention to timing, focus when you cook. And suddenly, your food changes. Not instantly, not perfectly, but noticeably. Because now you're not just cooking, you're thinking like a chef. So the next time you sit in a restaurant and take that first bite, instead of asking, why is this so good? You'll know. And maybe, just maybe, you'll go home and make something just as good. So tell me, what's the one dish you've never been able to recreate at home? Like, comment, and subscribe for more deep dives into food. And as always, stay hungry.